Go ahead.
Good evening, City Clerk. Spirit goes once again in session.
Thank you, sir. Any matters that we need to take up before we bring jurors up?
Your Honor, just briefly, we took a slightly earlier recess than usual, and it appeared that it was in part because of some information that Your Honor received from one of the bailiffs that maybe was something that was relayed from the jury. And I was sort of unclear about that when we were breaking, but Mr. Brown and I both thought if there was some reason that was given for a need to take an early break, since we had just had such one of the more sort of emotional sections of the trial, that might be important to...
Yeah. So I don't know what portion of this is on the record, but in any event, I noticed one of the jurors attempting to signal the bailiff. He didn't appear to be in great distress, but he was attempting to signal the bailiff. He did signal the bailiff. The bailiff came and, in any event, caught his eye, and I think he mouthed the words that he needed to break. So the bailiff indicated that to me, and I called for the lunch recess. So thank you for allowing me to put that on the record. Anything else that we need to take up? All right, let's bring jurors in. All right, Agent Gold, if you'll resume your seat, please. You recognize you're still under oath?
Yes, I do.
Mr. Waller, further questions?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. If I may reapproach.
Yes.
Agent Gold, when we broke for lunch, we were beginning to talk about a few of the other areas of the house that you processed. Is that correct, ma'am?
Yes, it is.
Okay. I'm going to show you two photographs, States Exhibit 107 and 108. If you'll take a look at those two photographs and let me know if you recognize what they are.
This is a photograph looking into the master bathroom and then looking into the master bedroom closet.
107 and 108, are they fair and accurate representations of what you saw there?
Yes, they are.
Your Honor, this time I would ask to introduce 107 and 108 for illustrative purposes.
It's allowed, and you may publish.
Thank you. Yes. What do you see there, Agent Gold?
That is the master bathroom, looking in from the doorway.
Okay. And in processing this scene, Agent Gold, did that appear to have any relation to the homicide itself? Did you find any items of evidence in that room?
Not that I recall.
Okay. And States Exhibit 108? What do you see there?
That is the master bedroom walk-in closet. It's looking into it from standing inside the master bathroom.
And in processing 107 and 108, the bathroom and the closet, again, did you see any signs of a disturbance in those rooms?
No, I didn't.
Did you collect any latent evidence in either one of those rooms that you recall?
I believe latent fingerprints were collected.
I'm going to show you what has now been identified as State's Exhibits number 109, 110, 111, and 112. We'll take a look at those photographs. Tell me if you recognize what those photographs are.
Yes, I do.
What are those photographs, ma'am?
These are photographs of some items that were found on the floor leading into the master bedroom. There's a small hallway that goes into the main part of the master bedroom, and those are on the floor right there.
And based on reviewing those photographs and your recollection of the scene, what are those items?
There's a notebook, a Bible, some type of like cloth book cover, and then this is a close-up photograph of some suspected blood on the cloth book cover. And then there is a slight suspected partial shoe impression in the actual carpet behind the bedroom door.
I'd ask to introduce these State's Exhibits 109 through 112 for illustrative purposes.
They are allowed and you may publish.
Thank you. We'll go with State's Exhibit 109. What do you see there, Agent Golden? You permission for her to stand up if she needs
Yes.
to do so.
Of course.
This is the photograph. This is the floor leading into the master bedroom, the notebook, the Bible, and the cloth book cover.
Could you tell if that book cover was a cover for the Bible, or were you able to make any determination with that?
Not for 100%, but I think it was.
And there appears to be a blue item underneath the door. Do you know what that was, Agent Gold?
I think it was a pen.
And then just on the State's Exhibit 110.
That's another photograph of the same, more of a mid-range photograph with the evidence marker.
Once those evidence markers, such as you see in this photograph, if evidence marker is labeled as evidence 3, does that number stay with an item throughout the rest of the processing?
Once it's labeled, yes, it does.
And State's Exhibit number 112. I'm sorry, we'll go to 111 on. That's fine. State's Exhibit 111, what is that?
That's a close-up photograph, and you see it's still marker number 3, so it's still the same items. And this was a suspected blood droplet on the cloth book cover.
At a later date, did you process State's Exhibit number, or excuse me, item 3 to determine whether or not that was a suspected blood drop?
Yes, I believe I did process that back at the lab.
And again, State's Exhibit number 112.
That's evidence marker number 4. This is behind the master bedroom entry door, and there was a suspected partial shoe impression in the carpet.
I'm going to hand you, Agent Gold, what has been marked for identification purposes, State's Exhibit 113. Take a moment. Put your gloves on. If you have this orange biohazard sticker on a bag, such as 113, generally, what does that mean?
It means that there are biological fluids, usually blood, on the item.
I'm going to hand you State's Exhibit 113, and if you could just identify 113, the bag itself.
This would contain item number 3 from marker number 3, and the cloth cover book with the Bible and the notepad.
If you will, and again, are you able to tell from the label that it is consistent or goes along with this case?
Yes, it has the case number, the victim's name, address, my name, and a description of the item on it.
And is it sealed in a similar fashion as to the purse that we discussed earlier?
It is. The tape, there's my initials and the date I sealed it.
If you will, open State's Exhibit number 113.
cloth book cover.
All right, I'm going to hand you a sticker that's marked as 113A. I'll give it to you. Now that that's been marked as 113A, what is that? What is that item?
This is the cloth book cover.
And when you open the book cover, is there something inside?
There are different papers, miscellaneous papers. Bible study.
Were those papers inside that cover when you saw them there on May 14th of 2013?
Yes, they were.
Are there any other items inside State's Exhibit 113, the bag itself?
Yes, there are.
If you can remove those for us, please.
Please, this one.
Yes, ma'am. You can put them here on the rail as we go along. 113, and I'm going to label that as 113B. Can you identify 113B for us, please?
This is the notebook collected from marker number 3.
And is there another item inside that bag?
Yes, there is.
If you can remove that, please. I'm going to hand you a red evidence sticker for that item. If you will place 113C on that item and describe that for us.
This is a Bible.
Does 113A, 113B, and 113C, do they all appear to be in the same or substantially same condition as when you collected them back on May 14th of 2013?
Yes, they do.
Any changes or alterations?
No.
You mentioned, can we back up to 111, Mr. Shakita? You mentioned that you at some point did some processing on what has now been labeled as 113A, the blood spot on that item. Was that performed by yourself at a later date?
Yes, it was. I believe I did that in the lab.
Your Honor, this time I would ask to introduce State's Exhibits 113, 113A, 113B, and 113C.
Any objection? They are allowed.
And if you will place those items just on top of the bag there, we'll seal it at a later time. Agent Gold, I'm going to hand you what has previously been identified as State's Exhibit 114 and ask if you recognize that item.
Yes, I do.
What is that?
This is the segment of carpet that we cut out at marker number 4.
And can we go to 112 again? So State's Exhibit 112 represents item number 4, and that's the carpet.
Yes, it is.
How did you go about removing that carpet from that area?
Well, the print itself was just in the carpet, you know, as if you had freshly vacuumed it and then stepped on it, that type of print. They're very difficult to collect. It has been photographed. We sprayed it with hairspray to try to stiffen the fibers and then cut out a segment around it and then placed it in its packaging.
And this evidence box appears to be a gun box, but it's not a gun.
It just was a good size for the carpet.
If you will open State's Exhibit 114A, excuse me, 114. I'm going to hand you a red evidence sticker, and if you'll place that on the item inside that box.
On the carpet itself?
Yes, ma'am. And if you will remove the contents. And what do you see there, Agent Gold?
A segment of carpet.
Okay. And now, does that carpet appear to be in the same or substantially same condition as when you collected?
Yes, the print is not there any longer.
Your Honor, this time I would ask to introduce 114 and 114A.
Any objection? It's allowed. They are allowed.
And Agent Gold, let me ask you just a couple questions about that. You said that that item, that foot impression wasn't present anymore, is that right?
That's correct.
Do you know what happened to the foot impression that day during transport?
Essentially, the fibers just went back to their original spot, their original resting location, I suppose you would call that.
What photographs were taken of that item?
Yes, they were.
Thank you, ma'am. And that's, again, it's your CCBI item 4, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, I've got a few more photographs for you to look at now. I'm going to hand you a group of photographs. They have been labeled for identification purposes, states exhibits 115, 116, 117, 118, 119, 120, 121, 122, 123, 124, 125, and 126. If you'll take a look at that group of photographs and tell me if you recognize what they are.
These are photographs taken in the bedroom of different items located within the bedroom, as well as some photographs containing suspected bloodstains.
And these items that are reflected in those photographs, are they on the I guess the left side of the bed, as if you're walking into the bedroom?
Yes, so if you were looking at the bed, they would all be on the left.
And these photographs fairly and accurately represent that scene.
Yes, they do.
Your Honor, I'd ask that at this time to introduce states exhibits number 115 through 126.
They are allowed for illustrative purposes and may be published.
Thank you. Agent Gold, if you'll stand and tell us what you see there now.
Here's item 3, where the books were, so you're standing slightly behind that. This is a blanket located on the floor. This is the bedpost of the footboard. This is a jewelry armoire, a clothes hamper. This is a drawer. Number 7 there is a drawer, I believe, from the jewelry armoire.
We can go to states exhibit 116.
This is a closer photograph of the jewelry armoire here, and then the drawer and a small little cardboard jewelry box and bag on the floor, and then there's the purple hamper.
And that drawer that's depicted in that photograph, that's the condition in which you found the drawer to start with in the processing.
Yes, it is.
States exhibit number 117.
Got another photograph of the jewelry armoire showing that the door was open. That's where the drawer came from. It's on the floor.
118.
This is the other side with the other door open.
119.
This is marker number 7 indicating the white cardboard jewelry box, the drawer, and then this other blue cardboard box.
So, go ahead, I'm sorry.
That's it.
So 7 there represents those 3 different items of evidence, the white box, the drawer, and the other objects outside of the drawer.
Yes, it does.
120.
That's a closer photograph of the white box, and there's a small suspected blood stain right here.
121.
Another photograph of the jewelry armoire with this marker number 8.
122.
That's the front of the jewelry armoire, a closer photo of some of the drawers with some a suspected blood stain right in here by the handle.
123.
That's a photograph of the very bottom drawer of the jewelry armoire and showing the contents of the drawer.
124.
That's with some of the items have been taken out, and this is a bag that was located in the bottom drawer with a suspected blood stain right there.
125.
That's a closer photograph of the same bag with a suspected blood stain.
And then 126.
That's the purple hamper, marker number 9, and with some suspected blood stains here up towards the bottom.
Thank you, Agent Gold. And if Agent Gold may step down and assist me with
Yes.
these items. I'm going to show you what has been marked now for identification purposes. State's Exhibit 127. Here in front of the jury. State's Exhibit 127. Can you identify that item of evidence for the members of the jury, please?
This is item number 8, the jewelry armoire.
And how can you tell that, ma'am?
And this is the label on the front that indicates what's inside with my name, the case number, victim's name, and the incident location address.
I'm going to ask that you open State's Exhibit 127 at this point.
Do you mind if I
Just cut it open. You go. I'm going to label this item as 127A. And while we were opening up 127A, a few drawers fell out for the record, right?
Yes, they did.
Okay. All right. And you can replace those drawers where they were. That's fine.
This one.
Those items back in there as well. Sure. No. Agent Gold, is this the armoire that you collected back in May of 2014?
Yes, it is.
It appear to be in the same or substantially same condition as when you collected it.
Yes, it is.
And on a later date, did you yourself do some processing of State's Exhibit 127A, the armoire?
Yes, I took additional photographs in the lab, and where all these scales are was suspected blood stains, and I took some swabs of the blood stains. They were tested, again, with a presumptive blood test, and I believe some of them, they were submitted into evidence. I don't know if they were sent to the SBI.
Okay.
Mr. Waller, I don't know how heavy that is. Can you lift it? The folks in the back row couldn't quite see.
If I can get Detective Brady maybe to assist me with that.
And if the witness could just point to the area she was just referring to.
Sure. See these areas where these scales are? These are areas that had suspected blood stains on them.
And Agent Gold, anytime you see those, I guess, measurement stickers, is that an area in which you suspect there may be blood?
Yes, it is, and I would have photographed it as well.
Thank you, Detective Brady. Now, this date on May 24th, did you do the presumptive test for blood at that time, or was it at a later date, do you recall?
It would have been when I was in the lab.
In the lab.
That was May 24th.
Okay. Or May 14th?
May 4th, that was, I'm not sure what day it was done, but it was done in the lab.
Okay. And that's when you would have done the presumptive test for blood?
Yes.
Okay. And any changes or alterations to 127 or 127A?
No.
Your Honor, this time I would ask to introduce 127 and 127A into evidence.
Any objection? It's allowed.
Please no.
there was a drawer that was taken out of 127A, and we saw in the photograph. So I'm going to label that. This item is 128. Take a look at 128 and tell me if you recognize what it is.
This is the jewelry armoire drawer and cardboard box.
And is that the box that we saw beside evidence marker 7 earlier on?
Yes.
And if you will open State's Exhibit 128.
Second bag in there, did you?
Well, take a look at that second bag, just make sure there's nothing in it.
Oh, no, it's just the white one that was packaged separately. So this was the white one that you saw in the photograph?
And let me label those for us real quick. 128A, can you identify those for us, please?
This was the white cardboard jewelry box seen in the photograph, right kind of next to the drawer.
And I believe you said in that photograph, when you were talking about it earlier, there appeared to be a blood stain on that box.
Yes, it appears to have been right about there.
Does 128A appear to be in the same condition as when you collected it?
Yes, it does.
I'm going to give you 128B. Put that on the next item there.
This is the blue cardboard box that was in the photograph.
And there appears to be one of the measurement stickers on there that we were discussing earlier. Again, what does that measurement sticker indicate to you?
This has been processed, and that would either be a swab or I think it might actually have been a suspected cloth impression.
And then State's Exhibit number 128C. What is 128C?
This is the other drawer from the jewelry armoire.
And again, does it appear to have been processed by you, processed at some point?
Yes, it does.
Any changes or alterations to any of these items?
No, there isn't.
Your Honor, this time I would ask to introduce State's Exhibit 128, 128A, B, and C.
Any objection?
No, sir.
They are allowed.
Thank you, Agent Bill. All right. Continue walking around the room at this point in terms of your investigation. I'm going to hand you 129 and 130. Do you recognize State's Exhibits number 129 and 130?
Yes, I do. This is in the master bedroom.
All right, and are those photographs?
Yes, they are.
What do those photographs depict?
They are showing, if you're looking at the bed, there was a window to the right side, and the blinds on that window were broken.
Fair and accurate depiction?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, at this time I would ask to introduce State's Exhibits 129 and 130.
They are allowed for illustrative purposes, and you may publish them.
Thank you. Yes. All right, what do you see there, Agent Gold?
So this is standing kind of at the foot of the bed, looking to the right of the bed. This was a tall dresser here, and then these were the blinds, and this slat here is broken.
And State's Exhibit 130.
Another photograph of the blinds, and the evidence marker 10 has been added.
Why did you decide to note those, note the damaged blinds there, Agent Gold?
Well, in case there was a struggle, it was possible the blinds had been broken, and it was a brand new apartment, so it seemed odd that it would already have broken blinds.
Permission for Agent Gold to step down again?
Yes.
I'm going to hand you what's been identified or marked for identification purposes as State's Exhibit 131. If you'll take a look at that box and tell me if you recognize the box.
I do. The label is here that indicates what's inside the box, the case number, names and address, and then my name.
And you may have already said this, Agent Gold, but what is the specific CCBI case number for the upstairs apartment?
For ours, it is 13-3149.
And I said unique CCBI case number. How are case numbers assigned on a crime scene such as this?
They are, how are they, up by dispatch assigns them. So this call came in earlier, and it was when we received a dispatch for the call, it is assigned a case number. And then after RPD had been on scene, they discovered the first floor burglary, and that was then assigned its own call number as well, or case number as well.
And so a CCBI case number, does it stay with a specific crime scene throughout the duration of an investigation?
Yes, it does.
And even for court proceedings?
Yes.
Okay. But you did say that the first floor apartment, it had a different CCBI number for it.
Yes, it does.
Thank you, ma'am. If you will remove the contents of State's Exhibit 131. I'm going to place a red evidence sticker on this item marking as 131A. And I'll help you remove the contents of that box. What do you see there, Agent Gold?
This is the blind from that window.
Okay. There appears to be some gray powder on the top of the blind. Do you know what that gray powder is?
That's fingerprint powder. It has been processed for latent fingerprints.
Other than the gray fingerprint powder, any changes or alterations to this item?
Not that I can see, no.
Your Honor, at this time I'd ask to introduce States 131 and 131A.
Any objection? They are allowed.
And Agent Gold, we can try something here. Do you believe we can undo or let the blinds down, I guess I should say. They are a mess.
There's the broken one right there.
Okay.
I don't think you want to come
That's
down.
fine. Would they, when you package this blind like that, is that the condition they would have been in?
Yes.
And State's Exhibit 130, which is still on the screen, prior to, I guess, folding the blinds up, that's what it looked like.
Yes.
And as you pointed out, did one of the slats in the blinds come out, and does it appear to be broken?
Yes, it does.
Okay, thank you.
Just put this one
That's
here.
fine, thank you. I'm going to hand you 132. You'll take a look at 132.
Okay. This is the part of the blind that broke off, the part that's missing from the main blinds.
Okay, and do you know where that part of the broken blind was when you processed the scene there?
I don't recall off the top of my head.
And how do you know it's part of a broken blind?
It's listed right here in the item description.
Okay. If you can remove the contents of 132. I'm going to put a red evidence sticker 132A. And what do you see there?
This is the segment of the blind that was broken off of the main blinds, and it also has fingerprint powder on it.
Does it appear to be in the same or substantially same condition as when you collected it?
Yes, it does.
Your Honor, at this time I would ask to introduce 132A, 132A, and 132.
Any objection? They are allowed.
Thank you, ma'am. All right. Agent Gold, I'm now going to show you a series of photographs starting at 133, 134, 135, 136, 137, 138, 139, and 140. You will take a look at those photographs and tell me if you recognize what they depict.
These are photographs of bedding, of blankets and comforters and pillows that was found on the floor between the foot of the bed and the wall.
Those photographs fairly and accurately represent the scene as you found it.
Yes, they do.
Your Honor, I'd ask to introduce those photographs for illustrative purposes.
They are allowed for illustrative purposes and they may be published.
Okay, we'll start with 133. What do you see?
These are two pillows on the floor. There's the foot of the bed and the wall. Has a blanket. I think that was wrapped up in a comforter. And there was a little bit of what we suspected to be mud found on some of the pillows and the bedding on the floor.
And I'll go on to 134. You mentioned mud. Was that the suspected mud that you saw?
Yes, it is. This little orangish brown area here we thought was suspected mud or dirt.
135.
That's the blanket. It's all twisted up. You see the two different blankets there.
And again, why did you take note of how the blanket was there on the floor?
It seemed out of place.
And looking at State's Exhibit number 135, do you now see that small piece of broken blind that we were talking about earlier?
I do.
Okay. And is that where the piece of broken blind was located?
Yes, it is.
Did the condition in which you found the blanket there on the floor, the broken blind, it appeared to you to be indicative of a struggle that happened in that room?
Yes, it did.
State's Exhibit 136.
This is a closer photograph of the blanket. You can see the two different colored blankets here that are wrapped up with a few suspected blood droplets here.
137.
Again, the same blanket with some suspected blood droplets here.
138.
That is a pillow. You can see this is Miss Huggins-Jones, her left leg, and then this is a pillow and the bed.
139.
That's the photograph, more of a, with the markers placed in that same area between the footboard and the wall with the bedding on the floor.
And 140.
Another photograph of the two blankets twisted up with an evidence marker.
Permission for Agent Gold to step down with you.
Yes.
All right, Agent Gold, I want to back up just briefly. State's Exhibit 141, can you identify what that is for me, please, ma'am?
This is the purple clothes hamper that was on the left side of the bed.
All right. I'm sorry, this is what?
The purple clothes hamper that, if looking at the bed, was on the left side of the bed.
And we pulled up State's Exhibit 126. Is that the purple hamper that you described earlier?
Yes, it is.
And that was if you're facing the bed to the left
To the
side.
left, yes.
If you'll open 141. I'm going to put an evidence sticker on the bottom of this purple fabric. And can you identify what 141A is at this point?
This is the frame of the hamper. This is the purple clothes hamper. That'd be like that. It's a little crush. And then this one goes on the outside. So this is the purple hamper you see there.
Okay. And Agent Gold, when you were talking about the purple hamper earlier, you indicated that there was suspected blood on that purple hamper. Can you show that for us?
Yes. You can see the dark stains here, here, here. Those were suspected blood stains.
Any changes or alterations to 141 or 141A?
No.
Your Honor, this time I would ask to introduce those items into evidence.
Any objection? They are allowed.
The suspected blood stains there on the hamper, Agent Gold, did you test those at some point for determine whether or not they were in fact blood?
I don't recall exactly if the hamper was done, but I want to say yes, but I would have to check my report just to verify that.
Based on your training and experience, did those appear to be blood transfer markings there on that hamper?
Yes, they do.
And I've used the word transfer. Is there different types of blood markings that can appear on an item or on an object?
There are.
Can you
yes.
describe that for us a little bit?
Essentially, a transfer is if an object that is already bloody touches an item that is not bloody and leaves a mark, or there could be a wet blood droplet on an item and then something hits it that's not bloody, causing another kind of mark. Those are wipes and swipes, and those are types of transfers. Another type of a transfer pattern would be a pattern, almost like a bloody shoe print would be an example of that.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. And okay, Agent Gold, we'll start with your CCBI item number 15. I'm going to mark that as State's Exhibit 142. As State's Exhibit number 142. Obviously, need all the help I can get keeping up with these numbers. 142, can you identify that for me?
This is a pillow with a pillowcase.
And is that the description listed there on the label?
Yes, it is.
And it also has the biohazard sticker on the outside of it.
Yes, it does.
If you open State's Exhibit 142. I'm going to hand you a sticker for 142A. There you go. Well, just say we're going to publish one of the photographs to kind of depict where these different items were. $139. All right. State's Exhibit 139. In that photograph, there's a marker for State's Exhibit number 15. Does it appear to be that same pillow, ma'am?
Yes, it does, and it's also labeled 15 here on the outside of the bag.
142 and 142A, any changes or alterations?
No.
Your Honor, I'd ask to enter 142 and 142A at this point.
Any objection? They are allowed.
Go to 143, which is CCBI item number 143, which is CCBI item number 16. Is 16 reflected there in that photograph? I think it's barely.
Yes, it is. It's towards the back here. Right here.
And State's Exhibit 143, what is that, ma'am?
It's labeled as the top sheet with blanket number 16.
And if you will remove the contents of 143. I'm going to hand you a red evidence sticker for 143A. What does that appear to be?
This is the blanket you see in the photograph?
Same or substantially same condition?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, at this time I would ask to introduce 143 and 143A.
Any objection? It's allowed.
And this is the sheet.
And is that depicted on State's Exhibit 139?
You can see it partially. You see a little bit of it right here, and then a little bit right there. It's mixed in with the blanket.
I'm going to label that as 143B. Any changes or alterations?
No, there aren't.
And in looking at, and you don't have to unfold them at this point, but in looking at 143A and B, did there appear to be blood on both of those items?
Yes, there were suspected blood stains. See some right there.
No, I'd ask to enter 143B at this time as well.
Any objection? It's allowed.
Thank you. State's Exhibit number 144. What is that, ma'am?
This is a pillow without a pillowcase.
And what item is that?
Item 17.
And is item 17 depicted on State's Exhibit 139 there?
Don't see it.
Is it at number 6?
Yes, it could be.
If you'll remove the contents of 144 there. And we'll hand you 144A sticker. And do you recognize that item, ma'am?
Yes, this is the pillow without the pillowcase.
And you mentioned earlier that there appeared to be a mud stain or something that you suspected to be mud on this area. Did you see that suspected mud stain on this?
You can see some of the suspected blood stains here, these dark spots. And a bit of mud over in this area.
So it had suspected blood and mud on it.
Yes, it does.
Your Honor, at this time I'd ask you to introduce States Exhibit 144 and 144A.
Any objection? They are allowed.
States Exhibit 145.
This is the pillow that was found on top of Miss Huggins-Jones?
And that's the pillow that we've seen in some of the prior photographs.
Yes, it is.
The pillow that would have been found on her chest.
Yes, it is.
And again, as States Exhibit number 145, is it labeled as such on that back?
Yes, it is. It's labeled right here.
I'd ask that you remove the contents of that bag. I'm going to hand you a red evidence sticker in place 145A. What do you see there, Agent?
This is the pillow that was found on top of Miss Huggins-Jones. You can see the remnants of the suspected blood stains.
Any changes or alterations to that pillow, Agent Gold?
No.
All right. And in the photograph, the blood was red or appeared to be red over the course of time. Does the blood change colors?
Yes, I mean, it can actually start to degrade a bit, so it darkens significantly.
Your Honor, this time I would ask to introduce States Exhibits 145 and 145A into evidence.
Any objection? They are allowed.
Make sure we get that one back in there. And let me know if that's in And permission for Detective Brady to assist me with this next time.
Yes.
It's going to be a fitted sheet. States Exhibit number 146. Can you identify that for us, Agent Gold?
This is item number 31, and it is the fitted sheet from the master bedroom bed.
And that's the fitted sheet that we've seen earlier photographs in which Miss Melissa Huggins-Jones was on top of. Is that right?
Yes, it is.
The one that had quite a bit of blood on it.
That's correct.
All right, I'm going to ask that you, with the assistance of Detective Brady, will remove the contents of 146. Agent Gold, I'm going to hand you 146A sticker.
Put it on the back. Is that all right?
Yes, ma'am, wherever you can get it on the sheet there. Thank you. Do you recognize what, what States Exhibit 146A is?
This is the fitted sheet from the bed in the master bedroom.
Does it appear to be in the same or substantially same condition as when you collected it back in May of 2013?
It is, except that if you see these purple marks, it has been processed with leucocrystal violet for bloody impressions.
And when did you do that, ma'am?
After the case in the laboratory.
The stains that you see here, is that did you do a testing for the presence of blood on this sheet?
I would have done a phenolphthalein presumptive test, again, to test a spot.
And what was the result of doing that test?
It had a positive reaction.
And to be clear, Agent Gold, the discoloration that is caused by your testing, or is the stain that you see here, is it indicative of the amount of blood that was on that sheet?
Well, it's a protein dye, so a lot of it could also be from sweat here, I would say. But we did not have any impressions located on it. But yes, this is all the dark red and blackish color, that's all suspected blood with a presumptive positive reaction. It's this purple color here that is from the chemical.
Your Honor, at this time I would ask to introduce State's Exhibits 146 and 146A into evidence.
Any objection? It's allowed.
All right, Agent Gold, I'm now going to turn your attention back to some of the photographs that you took. I'm going to mark for identification purposes 147, 148, 149, and 150. If you'll take a look at those photographs, tell me if you recognize what they are.
These are photographs of suspected blood droplets found on the wall just opposite of the footboard of the bed.
And when you say they're suspected blood droplets, how can you tell that, Agent Gold?
Well, you can tell by the appearance, but they were tested with phenolphthalein, and that did have a positive reaction. And
I'm sorry?
I was going to say, and as you go through the photos, you can also see here, there's a purplish color. They were also processed with leucocrystal violet, which turns that purplish color when it reacts with the hemoglobin.
And similar to the sheet that we just saw in the purplish color.
That's correct.
Your Honor, at this time I would ask to introduce State's Exhibits 147 through 150 for illustrative purposes.
They're allowed for illustrative purposes, and you may publish them.
State's Exhibit 147, can you tell us what you see there, Agent Gold?
This is that same wall. Here are the pillows and blankets that are on the floor, and these are the blood droplets on the wall.
State's Exhibit number 148.
And again, that's the closer photograph of the same thing with a large scale showing our height.
And tell us why you use that measuring stick there.
To show the height from the floor,
And how high up did those blood stains get on that wall?
I would say the highest one looks to be between 39 and 40 inches.
And there appears again to be one of those measuring stickers or a measurement sticker there labeled as, it looks like 29 from here. Why do you put that sticker there?
That is where we collected a sample from.
State's Exhibit number 149.
That's a closer photograph of that same scale that was in the last photograph.
And then State's Exhibit number 150.
That's the same photograph with the scale from the floor, and after this has been processed with leucocrystal violet, and you can see the purple coloring.
So that leucocrystal violet, tell us again what that does.
It is a protein dye stain that reacts with the hemoglobin in blood, and we use it to try to develop latent bloody impressions.
And so why does the blood turn purple like we see here in this photograph?
That's just the reaction that the chemical creates.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm going to show you a few more photographs. Let me ask you about that. Can we go back to State's Exhibit number 147? You said those are the blood stains on the wall. How far away are those blood stains from the head of Melissa's bed?
I don't know.
In terms of feet, could you approximate how far away it was?
I would be completely guessing.
Was the the head of the bed on the other side of the bedroom, against the back wall.
It would have been closer to the opposite side of the bed towards the headboard.
So essentially, these blood stains are across the room.
Yes, they are.
Objection to the leading.
Overruled.
Let's go with State's Exhibit number 151. 152. 153. 154. 155. And 156 or 157. You'll take a look at these items, Agent Gold, and tell me if you recognize what they are.
These are photographs of additional blood stains found on the headboard and the blinds located behind the bed.
So the opposite end of the room from the blood stains that we just saw.
That's correct.
And those photographs fairly and accurately represent or depict that portion of the room.
Yes, they do.
Your Honor, at this time I would ask to introduce State's Exhibits 151 through 157 for illustrative purposes.
They're allowed for illustrative purposes and may be published.
Excuse me. State's Exhibit 151 will start there. And at this point, obviously, Miss Melissa's body had been removed there from the scene.
That's correct, and the top sheet has also been removed from the bed.
So in fact, what we're seeing here is the mattress to
Yes.
that bed.
And then this is the headboard, and you can see the blinds behind the headboard, so there are windows behind the headboard.
And to be clear, we've already talked a little bit about some window blinds. The window blinds that we've seen in evidence already that were broken, they were on a different wall of that room.
That's right, so they would be on this wall over here.
Other than the blood stains that we'll talk about here in a minute, did you happen to notice any damage to those particular window blinds?
No.
All right, going through 151, if you can describe for us what you see there a little bit.
This is a photograph of the headboard. This is a scale on the floor. If you can see it, with these little droplets here are suspected blood droplets. There's a small scale here indicating where a sample was taken. And then this is showing the height from the floor.
So when you say the height from the floor, you're not starting that ruler at the top of the mattress and going
No.
up. You're starting from the floor.
No, it goes behind the mattress to the floor.
State's Exhibit number 152.
That's a closer photograph of the small scale for those samples.
Okay. And that appears in that photograph. It's blood stain number 32. Is that right?
Yes.
State's Exhibit 153.
This is the headboard with the windows behind it. This is the scale from the floor showing height. And you can see there are some suspected blood stains here on the blinds behind the headboard.
It's kind of hard to see with the lights on in the courtroom and the distance, but where that ruler is, are there in fact blood stains on the blinds there beside them?
Where this is?
Yes, ma'am.
I believe they're in this area here.
We'll go to another photograph, 154.
You can see them better here. This is a closer photograph of the same thing. They're in this area. You go up like this.
155.
Again, a closer photograph of the same stains. And then this is the top of the headboard, and there are some suspected blood stains here.
156.
Another view from the right side of the bed of the blinds. And you can see suspected blood stains here. Those are the ones that we showed with the large scale. And then here's the wall, and then here in this set of blinds.
And 157.
That is looking, so this is the outside, The parking lot's right here, and this is showing the blood on the windowsill, a suspected blood stain here on the windowsill, which is behind the headboard.
I'm going to show you additional photographs. 158, 159, and 160. Take a look at those photographs and tell me if you recognize what they are.
These are photographs of the bedpost of the bed. The bedpost, if you were looking at the bed, it would be on the right side near the windows by the headboard.
These photographs appear to fairly and accurately represent that bedpost.
Yes, they do.
Your Honor, at this time I would ask to introduce State's Exhibit 158 through 160 for illustrative purposes.
They are allowed for illustrative purposes, and you may publish.
When you process this bedpost, what, if anything, did you notice on the bedpost there, Agent Gold?
We processed this bedpost also with the leucocrystal violet, and we developed a suspected cloth impression in this area of the bedpost.
When you say cloth impression, what do you mean by that?
It would be any type of impression left that would not have ridge detail, because ridge detail is left by a fingerprint, so it would be from some type of fabric transferring an impression onto a surface.
And when you say that this impression was left on the bedpost, was it in a blood area, or were you able to detect it in another sense? I guess I should say, was this a bloody fabric impression, or was it something else?
It was developed with the leucocrystal violet, which develops latent bloody prints. So I couldn't see it with just my eyes, but once we developed it with the chemical, we were then able to see it further. And we thought it was a suspected cloth impression, so we photographed it.
Okay, so I didn't ask that very well to start with. So when you put the chemical on the bedpost and it indicated the presence of blood, is that right?
Yeah, it reacted, yes.
Okay. And then at that point, how did you notice the cloth impression?
Well, because after we processed it, we visually examined it.
And I'm going to go to State's Exhibit number 159. And is that the close-up?
That's the close-up photograph.
And using State's Exhibit 159, can you kind of explain to the jury how you were able to notice that fabric impression?
We noticed the suspected fabric impression because you can see that there's an impression here, some type of pattern transfer, but it has no ridge detail. It's not a fingerprint.
And then State's Exhibit number 160.
And that's the same item photographed. This is the top of the bedpost.
I'm going to hand you what has been marked for identification purposes, State's Exhibit 161. You'll take a look at that item and tell me if you recognize what it is.
This is a swab of the fabric impression.
And can you open State's Exhibit 160 there for us? Excuse me, 161. Is there sufficient surface area to put that State's Exhibit 161 on it? You can just wrap it around, that'd be fine. Thank you. What is State's Exhibit 161?
This is a cotton swab. It was used to collect a sample from the suspected cloth impression. It has been processed further by SBI, so it doesn't look exactly the same as when I collected it.
Okay. Any changes or alterations other than the processing that you've described to 161 or 161A?
No.
Your Honor, this time I would ask to introduce State's Exhibit 161 and 161A.
Any objection? They're allowed.
The swabbing. Tell us a little bit about how you go about swabbing an area such as what's depicted there in State's Exhibit 160.
We take a sterile cotton swab and we put a droplet of sterile water on it, and then you lightly rub the area to collect it, and then we have these type of, I'll show you again, these type of swabs or captures. So after we've swabbed it, then this lid goes on and clicks shut.
And I guess I should say, what exactly were you swabbing for at that point, Agent Gold?
We were swabbing the suspected cloth impression in case there might be DNA of someone through the cloth, as well as perhaps the victims.
Thank you, ma'am. Go to 162 and 163. Let's start with 162. Do you recognize what that item depicts?
That's the ceiling above the bed in the master bedroom.
And what, if anything, do you notice in that photograph?
There are suspected blood droplets on the ceiling.
Any changes or alterations to that photograph?
No, there aren't.
Your Honor, that's under 162 for illustrative purposes.
It's allowed for illustrative purposes. You may publish.
What do you see there, Agent Gold?
This is the ceiling. This is the air vent on the ceiling. It's above the bed. And these are the suspected blood droplets. And this small scale here indicates where we collected a sample.
So that vent that is depicted in that photograph, where is it in relation to where Miss Huggins-Jones' body would have been?
I would say it's towards the center of the bed.
Okay. So essentially directly above her bed.
Yes, above her bed, yes.
Maybe not right above her body, but right above her
Right,
bed.
approximately right above the bed.
How high are the ceilings in that room?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Did they appear to be kind of normal?
They did.
Normal ceilings that you would
Yeah.
find in kind of your standard.
Exactly,
standard
they were
apartment.
normal.
And this blood that you saw was in fact on the ceiling or ceiling of that apartment.
Yes, it was.
There's been the term, blood spatter that has been kind of used in this case before. Did you or any of your supervisors go about, trying to find a blood spatter expert or anything like that in this particular case?
No, blood spatter expert was not called in. It was determined that blood spatter is normally used to kind of recreate an event or show a sequence of event or to show what happened. And it was evident in what had happened here that she had been beaten and stabbed in that location. And so it was determined by someone that blood spatter expert was not called in.
Okay. And so to be clear, like if you had a scene in which you were trying to tell the movement of a body or something like that, is that a case in which you may consider bringing in a blood spatter expert or someone trained in that field?
Or to confirm or to deny someone's statement or to show the distance of a gunshot or to that effect, yes.
But in this case, it appeared that everything had happened there in that
That's
bedroom.
right. That's right.
In terms of the assault and the homicide,
That's correct.
based on what y'all saw there in processing the scene.
Yes.
Okay. And then State's Exhibit 163, what does that appear to be?
This is a photograph that we took right before we left. We processed the walls of her bedroom with fingerprint powder in an effort to try to even get fingerprints off the walls. So it's just a photograph showing the walls where we processed them.
Fair and accurate depiction?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, at this time I'd ask to introduce 163 and publish for illustrative purposes.
It's allowed for illustrative purposes, and you may publish.
And that's kind of from that little entry hallway where the books were found, looking into the bedroom.
You mentioned that it was an attempt to get fingerprints off the wall.
Yes.
Were you skeptical as to whether or not you would be able to get fingerprints off of a wall?
It's not a great surface for a fingerprint, but we just were trying to find something to help determine, who a suspect was.
Why isn't a wall a great surface for getting fingerprints?
The drywall is textured, it's kind of semi-porous, it just doesn't retain a fingerprint very well.
But all these gray areas that you see there on the wall, inside the entire bedroom, those were some of the attempts you made to locate at least fingerprints there.
That's all fingerprint powder, all the stuff on the walls, the gray stuff on the walls.
And then again, in State's Exhibit 163, we were talking about the dryer vent a moment. That's not the dryer vent, excuse me. The vent in the ceiling. Does that appear to be the same vent?
That is the vent.
Okay. Directly above the victim's bed.
Yes.
Agent Gold, was that? And I know it was a lot of photographs, but did that fairly and accurately kind of represent the processing you did there in the victim's bedroom on May 14th and then again into the May 15th.
Yes, it does.
All right, I want to take you out of that room a little bit. And did you process other areas of the victim's apartment there that day?
Yes, we did.
Specifically in regards to the child's bedroom, can you tell us a little bit about what you did to process the child's bedroom?
For the most part, we took photographs. There was, we observed a small suspected blood stain on the exterior of the child's bedroom door. We did swab that blood stain. We did a touch DNA swab of her exterior doorknob. And I think that's it. Yeah.
164. I'm going to label some photographs as 164, 165, 166, 167, 168, 169, and 170. Take a look at those photographs. Tell me if you recognize what the area that they depict, please.
These are the child's bedroom, or the entry door to her bedroom, and the corresponding bathroom to her bedroom.
Agent Gold, did you photograph the child's bedroom and the condition in which you found it?
Yes, I did.
Any changes or alterations to these photographs?
No, there isn't.
Your Honor, at this time I'd ask to introduce State's Exhibit 164 through 170 into evidence for illustrative purposes.
They're allowed for illustrative purposes, and you may publish.
All right, State's Exhibit 164, can you describe what you saw there or see there?
This is looking into the bedroom, standing in the entry doorway to the bedroom.
The condition that you found the room in, did it appear to be kind of consistent with an 8-year-old bedroom?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Any signs of struggle in there, any disarray that you associated with a confrontation, assault, or anything like that?
No, there wasn't.
State's Exhibit 165.
That's, again, another photograph showing the bunk beds. We had been told that she was sleeping on the top bunk, so we just took a photograph of that.
166.
That's a photograph. This right here is a fan, and it was on when we arrived, and it was quite loud, and so we photographed that just to document its presence.
That fan, Agent Gold, you mentioned that it was quite loud. Was that something that you noticed when you walked into her bedroom?
Yes.
Could you hear that fan in other parts of the house, if you recall?
Not that I know.
With the door shut, could you hear the fan through the door?
Not really. I mean, maybe if you listened, but when you were in the room, it was quite loud. Louder than your average just desk fan, is the best way to say.
167.
That's the bathroom, which is right next to the child's bedroom.
168.
That's the door, the entry door to her bedroom.
In 168, you may need the actual photograph, but in 168, you mentioned a blood stain earlier. Can you show the members of the jury where that blood stain would be?
You can see right there is a little spot by the door handle.
169.
And that's a closer photograph of the same spot.
Okay. And 170.
And it's had a number assigned to it.
And what was the number assigned to that?
14.
Agent Gold, why did y'all one photograph and process this door and that blood stain?
Well, we thought it was important to document that someone had blood on them when they approached that door.
Okay. And you testified a little bit about blood transfer earlier. Does that blood spot there appear to be a transfer
I couldn't say for certain. I'm not a blood expert.
But there did appear to be blood on the door.
Yes, there was.
Was there any other blood source in that house other than Melissa Huggins-Jones when you were processing the scene there?
No, there wasn't.
Item number 14, I'm going to hand you one set item marked as 171. If you'll take a look at 171, tell me if you can recognize what it is.
Blood swab from daughter's bedroom door.
And again, does it have the same CCBI number and identifying marks?
Yes, it does.
And if you'll open 171 and tell us what's inside there.
And this is the swab.
171A. I'm going to ask that you place that red evidence sticker on there. And can you tell, looking at 171A, whether or not there's been some additional processing that has been performed on that actual blood swab?
Yes, it has.
How can you tell that, Agent Gold?
Well, the blood stain, it will stain when you swab the blood, making it a darker color, and it's ripped, so the blood stained portion of the swab has been removed for testing.
So if no testing had been done, you would expect to see a darker area on that swab.
And a complete swab.
Your Honor, this time I would ask to introduce 171 and 170A and 71A into evidence.
Any objection? It's allowed.
172. Can you identify that for us?
This is a swab from daughter's bedroom doorknob.
Okay, and what's the difference between 171, the blood swab, and 172?
This was a swab of the suspected blood stain, number 14. This one was just a swab of the doorknob itself. We were hoping to get possibly some skin cells left behind by a suspect.
So to be clear, State's Exhibit 171 that I've just thrown on the floor.
Want me to come?
Entire tissue. Just for the record, I want to put the entire tissue that I used to pick up the item within the envelope. So 171, that swab is actually of 14.
That's
blood
correct.
stain.
Yes.
Okay. 172, what is it a swab of?
This is the swab of the exterior doorknob to the daughter's bedroom door.
And if you'll remove the contents of 172A, excuse me, of 172.
You can see that this has also been processed.
And so that swab would have been collected in the same manner as State's Exhibit 171.
That's correct. That's correct. You know, every time we collect one of these swabs, we put on a brand new pair of gloves. You then put a droplet of sterile water on the sterile cotton swab, and you rub the area.
And you're looking for DNA for both of these swabs.
That's correct.
By utilizing both of these swabs, I should say.
That's correct.
Your Honor, this time I'd ask to introduce 172 and 172A.
Any objection? They're allowed.
After processing the child's bedroom, I want to move out to the balcony area, okay?
Okay.
And I'm going to again show you a group of photographs. 173, 174, 175, 176, 177, 178, 179, 180, 181, 182, 183, 184, 185, 186, 187, 188, and 189. Take a look at those photographs, Agent Gold. Tell me if you recognize the area in which they depict.
These are all photographs of the exterior deck that's on the other side of the living room, as well as some photographs of developed suspected cloth impressions and some suspected blood droplets, all on the exterior deck.
Fair and accurate representation of the deck and the processing that you did there.
Yes, they are.
Your Honor, at this time, I'd ask to introduce 173 through 189 for illustrative purposes.
They're allowed for illustrative purposes, and you may publish them, but before you do that, we're going to go ahead and take a 15-minute recess. So we'll be in recess until 1:45. Members of the jury, please recall all the rules and instructions. Leave your notepads in your chairs. Gather in the deliberation room at 3:45. Everyone else, please remain seated while the jurors excuse themselves.